Hideo Kojima's Death Stranding has dramatically reworked the fundamentals found in other, more generic open-world games. Mechanically, the game mimics the process of learning as a baby to crawl before one can then walk and eventually run. Subsequently, there is no one correct way to play it, but here are 18 tips on how you might improve your playstyle and approach the game in maybe a more confident and knowledgeable way. Some mild spoilers follow in terms of equipment and mechanics. 1. There are voidouts. It took me a while to figure this one out actually, but that craterization we see in the early cutscene with Igor by being killed by catchers, yeah, that can happen emergently in gameplay. Two, first-person maneuvering and crouching. Both can make it much easier to navigate difficult terrain, especially when used in tandem with certain exoskeletons and other tools which improve your ability to get around and maintain a balance. Even at the start of the game though, just looking at where your feet are headed or looking high up in order to clear small obstacles like a Mars rover will save you some hassle and time. 3. P makes BTs leave. But they come back pissed off. If you pee near them, your chiralium-laced discharge will send them packing. But be careful not to reconjure them. It seems every time you do so, their tar spreads wider and then they become more ghost-like. Four, use the surveillance cam towers. For a long time I didn't really get what made these towers different from the Odra deck. Well, I'll tell you. The surveillance cams can see much further and give you a 360-degree imprint of your surroundings, which, unlike detections with the Odra deck, won't go away on your HUD after a few seconds, requiring you to go back into first-person mode to reactivate them. Five, try the boss fights. Yes, catchers can cause voidouts, but if you beat one, you can get a huge influx of chiral crystals. Just make sure you're well armed with anti-BT weaponry first. You can also coat the enemy in your blood with the hermetic grenade and then shoot a regular gun into the cloud for coated bullets. A cool trick. 6. Always be experimenting and thinking outside the box. Seven, keep calm and carry on. Getting spotted by a gazer isn't the time to start hauling ass. If you calm down and slowly get away by crouching and regulating your breathing with alternating presses of R1, with only the initial blip to go on, your enemy won't be able to track you. 8. Explore voidout zones. This one is especially useful if you also wait for a break in timefall to do so. Voidout zones, as a rule, are littered with cargo and materials, making them high-risk, high-reward areas. 9. Resist auto-arrange. Auto-arrange is a great feature if you're in a bind, but it has some severe drawbacks if you start using it every single delivery. There are tons of clever ways you can use precise arrangements counterintuitively to foolproof your trip. For example, putting fragile cargo further down on your back, or just carrying it by hand, which ensures that Sam will clutch it close if he falls. Tricks like this will protect your cargo during a fall or an encounter with BTs, even if they also make movement unbalanced in the meantime. 10. Don't save scum unless necessary. I get it. You've made a terrible mistake or something went wrong, and now all your cargo is badly damaged and floating down a river. But don't just rage reload. First off, you can redeploy the cargo, which resets its damage, although it also returns it to its original location, and this can't be done if the cargo is lost. Conversely, though it isn't the most efficient tactic, you can just destroy the cargo and then scrap it for a small bit of parts. And even if you decide to take the damaged cargo to its destination after all, don't sweat it. There will always be other deliveries for you, so don't be so serious. 11. Think of the environment as an item. This tip's kind of abstract, but if you think of the environment as just another tool, it might help thinking outside the box. There's no one way to approach it, in other words. It's about what you decide to use in tandem with your environment that counts. And sometimes the possible combinations of item and environment will surprise you. And if it isn't working out, you may need to adapt a different strategy. "12. Look for paths of least resistance. I can't tell you how many times I went up a mountain through back-breaking effort only to later realize that if I had just studied the map a little closer, I would have seen a much easier route around the other side. Don't be as stubborn as me. If you can, always be looking for the easier method of getting where you're going. And be willing to do something you wouldn't normally do. 13. Play it like a survival game. Death Stranding has some decidedly retro aspects. Like the walking and the intense early difficulty curve. Soon enough you'll be driving and using other methods to get around, but at pretty much all times I suggest playing this game like it's survival horror. Plan for contingencies and use the map nav system to plot your routes. Assume things will go wrong, because often they will. 14. Keep in mind the terrain and topography. Look, sometimes on the 2D map it may look like you're in for an easy trek to your destination, but it's important to cycle through the data when accepting a mission to spot any warnings about terrain and location. Remote outposts and shelters are often pretty hard to just stroll over to, and this is a game that requires thinking ahead. After all, it's the one thing we can do and machines can't, so use the power of your mind, okay boss? 15. Record your damn cutscenes. Okay, this one isn't mechanical, but I strongly suggest recording your cutscenes. Death Stranding is an immensely dense narrative experience that's been written to confuse and astound any surface-level skimming. By recording these scenes for further study and review, you'll find there's a lot more in them than often meets the eye. This is especially crucial given that, unlike the Phantom Pain, you can't re-trigger cutscenes more than once on a single playthrough, as far as I know. 16. Conduct regular maintenance and be altruistic. The key to a meaningful experience in Death Stranding, as in life, is to think about people other than yourself. By building roads and maintaining bridges and so on, you can really derive a sense of satisfaction by making this world a better place. Plus, if you help recover cargo and fix people's stuff when it's breaking down, you'll receive more likes and more strand contracts, which will increase the number of recoverable stuff in your world and helpful emplacements by the other party there too. So be a good neighbor, but keep in mind that more analog gear, like climbing anchors and ladders, can't necessarily be repaired. The upside is that you can put them down even in an area that's off the chiral network. 17. Consider making your safe house a distro center. If you fill your safe house with materials and load it with lost cargo and vehicles, it becomes way more useful to others and can help everyone, yourself included, to break up long treks through the wilderness. Try to be strategic about where you put the safe house too. And finally, Stockpile then Santa your lost cargo. Delivering big shipments raise your overall likes from the job, so it behooves one to stockpile lost cargo at your safe house until it's time for a massive haul. Keep in mind though that there are two optimal ways to properly do this, at least in my opinion, either with a truck or with carriers. I'd bring a carrier along in your truck in case it runs out of juice along the way, or you need to jump ship. And remember that the battery of your truck will drain faster the rougher the terrain, so as always, plan your route ahead of time. Well, that's all I've got for you for now. Hope it improves your experience playing Death Stranding. If you think of any more tips, why not share them in the comments? Inquiring minds would love to know. Until next time, boss.